Welcome everybody to today's office hours, setting yourself up for success. We've got some really good stuff. Of course, Kendra's always got good stuff for us, and she's going to be doing some sharing. I'm going to start us off with something that's extremely important and for the success of your business, definitely. And I want to make sure that we get it covered right away as well. So welcome everybody to August. Man, this year's going by quick. August 2nd. All right. So for those that don't know me, my name is Mark Stepp. I am the Chief Innovation Officer here at Realvolve. Spent the last 30 plus years helping real estate agents in learning technology, doing technology, and building technology has been a fun part of what I do. And knowing what you guys do on a day-to-day basis is extremely important. And just really taking the time to understand the differences in real estate CRMs, the things that it takes to make a CRM function in the real estate business, which is different than some of the other technologies that are out there. It's important, and that's I just kind of help you guys understand the why of that. So with me today, Kendra, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Kendra Rouse. I am in our customer success and premium services department. I'm a licensed agent. I have been for about 10 years. I've got about 15 years of small business management experience. And I am a systems fanatic. So if it needs to be systematized, I'm constantly thinking about ways to do it. And, kind of going into what we're going to talk about today. Just talking about the basics, and one of the things that Mark's going to be talking about, the A2P, all of you should have received an email. We're going to go into depth on how you can be set up for success on that. But really just talking about the core of, sometimes we think about the things that, are really granular, but taking a step back and just thinking about the larger picture. Are you really set up for success in everything you're doing?
Absolutely. So for today's agenda, setting yourself up for success, going over some help stuff, understanding some of the premium services that we have involved in Realvolve, and then also making sure that you guys know that you guys can get to previous office hours through our Facebook page. We can go through the sections of Facebook and see our previous, or just go out to our YouTube group, our YouTube page, and there is an entire playlist for office hours, and we'll just kind of go through different topics and help you guys understand all the different things. Today's thing, again, A2P basics, making sure you guys know how to edit and change your signature, and then thinking through your flows, and even like the new lead capture, making sure things that need to be done through process, and making sure that you guys can handle scale. That's a word. I had one of the agents, and she was extremely good agent, and still is. But she didn't, she said, Mark, explain scale to me. I'm not understanding it. And I thought it's so basic. I didn't ever really explain it well, but at the same time, I've had other people say that. So I want to make sure everybody realizes that whenever we're doing things within Realvolve and we're setting up these workflows, we're making it so that automation helps you in different ways, that it's for the purpose of scale. And that means if it's got one person coming in, or if it's got 20 or 2,000 people, you can still do the process and not be overloaded. Meaning that you've got something in place that helps you grow your business, scale your business, make it function better, and without pulling your hair out. I mean, really what it comes down to, at the end of the day, we want you guys to be able to go home, be with your family, and not worry about the things left undone. And if you've got systems in place, if you've got the things that you do on a daily basis systematized, then that gives you that freedom to enjoy your time off instead of worrying about what did I not do because I don't have processes in place. I just do them on a whim, and that becomes a process towards failure. So that's what we're talking about. So to get us started off, I want to really stress the importance of this. There is nothing more important than this right now for your business because of regulations. Now, if you are outside the country, and we do have some people outside the United States, if you never send text messages to the United States, this is probably not a worry of yours at all. If you're in Canada and you send text messages to the United States, it is important that you deal with. Even though you're outside the country, you still need to deal with it because you're texting inside the country. Starting on August 31st, all SMS providers, meaning Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, all the providers, you pay the services that are using other services, all of them are going to stop allowing unregistered SMSs from going through. End of story. It's not us. It is a requirement for the United States, for the providers. They're implementing this and saying, okay, we've got so many spam type things that's going on. People are sending crap all the time. We're going to stop it. We're going to try to stop it anyway. And the way to stop this is to police it in a way that is responsible and gives the sender the ability to send important information, but also the safety and security that the receiver doesn't get a lot of junk anymore. So if you don't do this process after August 31st, your SMS messages will not go through. End of story. So that's kind of the thing. That's your deadline as far as everything needs to be approved by then. And what will happen? No SMSs. So what do you have to do? The email, we have it in the email, plus I also put it on our Facebook group. There is a link that you can go to, and it's basically a form. If you are a sole proprietor, meaning you do not have an employer identification number, some do, don't have that, which you would use this secondary form. Majority of the people will use the A2P form right here. Whenever you click on that, it will take you to the form that you need to fill out. And if you happen to click on the wrong one and need to switch, it's no big deal. But you definitely need to click on the form. So let me take you through that. Again, I've placed it on our community page. So
And I
you
just
can
put it in the chat.
Okay, you can go to it there. Basically what it does is it takes you to this form here. I'm hearing an echo. Can we mute?
While he's muting, also Mark asked a good question in chat. This form needs to be filled out per user, not per account. So if you're the account owner and you have a couple team members that are sub-users on your account, each login, each account needs to fill this out, or that's that person's SMS. If they are assigned a specific phone number, that phone number essentially needs to register.
Correct, yeah. If you go into Realvolve, and just let me take you in there, and you go into your settings and SMS services here. If you have any kind of connection right here with a phone number, you need to fill this out. Of course, you can fill it out for each of your users, making sure that you fill it out for each one of them, but each number has to be filled out. Otherwise, that number will not be able to be sent. So basics on this, most of it is extremely basic. First name, which product do you use, Realvolve or Firepoint, or both? If you use both of them, that's great. What is your login email address? So whatever email address you use to log into the account. I'm using this as an example, my trainer Realvolve account. I just happen to use info@realvolve.com. Okay. The next and probably most important thing is making sure that you have the legal name correct. So there is a link on here where you can click on to do a lookup. And what that does is that takes you to a place where you can type in the name of your company, go through and find the appropriate, whichever one it is. Now, I'm not sure why we have to, other we were an LLC at one point and then we changed to incorporated. So I would probably find the one with the highest number. In this case, this one's just a little bit higher. And you can just click into it if you want. Basically what this does is this gives you a couple different things. Number one, the business name. You can just grab it and put into the legal business name. Copy that in there. Choose what business type you have, whether you are partnership, corporation, whatever. If you are sole proprietor, you would have been filling in the other form, but other than that, everything else is the same. There's a little bit different process. So few are going to be doing that. I don't think it's an issue, but do you have an EIN or are you Canadian? We have an other on there. I'm not sure what else you would put on there, honestly, but for whatever reason it's there. And then the business registration number, going back to that form, is the EIN. That's the number that you would grab there, paste it in, and then what is your website? Once you click on next, fill in the remainder of the stuff. Again, I would put, in this case, it's asking for street address, city, state, zip, all that. I would just grab it from this section here. Just each one of them, copy, paste, make sure it's exactly the same. The reason why it needs to be exactly the same is they are verifying all this information, and if they can find an exact match, verification will go a lot quicker. Okay, nothing magical there. If something's not quite right, then they have to do it by hand, and that just takes a little bit longer to have to deal with. Once you've got all that, then just put in your basic contact information, who you are, what you are, and your contact number. And if anybody during the registration process requires additional information, they'll call that number. So pretty much it. Now, this is where it's also extremely important. We want to know, or they want to know, not we, they want to know kind of what type of information are you going to be sending. So describe, how you're going to use this. Honestly, this is probably the easiest way to do for the example part here. Describe what you'll be doing for the SMS. Just copy and paste that right there. I mean, pretty much everybody's doing this exact same thing. So it makes complete sense. If you want to expand on it, you certainly can. It's more informational. Make sure that you are who you are and how you're going to use it. But then it asks for two different samples, just some samples of what you're going to be sending out. What you can do there is just go into your templates area, go into the SMS templates, and find one or two, actually find two of the templates that maybe you send the most of, just as examples. So, maybe you send thank yous out, whatever. Click on the little preview button. It'll come up with, whatever you've got there. Copy that and then go into the back into the form, and then just paste that right into the example section, which I already did. For number one, and then do a second one. Go back to Realvolve, grab another SMS of some sort that maybe you send frequently, and copy and paste it, and then put that in there. Once you've filled those two pieces out, then you can submit it, and you're done. You've done your part anyway. At that point, then we send all this information, then is sent to our provider, Twilio, which is a company that deals with sending out SMS messages, and they then register all this information to a registrar that then is used for T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, all the different providers use that to identify you and what you're doing. If you've submitted this and things get cleared by August 31st, you will have zero problems. Should have zero problems. The thing that most people are worried about at this point, I say vendors, is making sure that our customers, you guys, fill this out quick enough so that it does get verified before August 31st. So I'm stressing the importance and hoping that that all makes sense. Any questions about that?
Mark has a question. He says, how are they associating with my phone numbers?
So your email address, your login email address, is what links our account to your SMS number. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that's why it's important when you're doing one for each of your users, that when it says, when you're putting in that email address, you're actually using the Realvolve login, because that's what's tied to Twilio, in other words, to the SMS number associated to that specific account.
Yeah, this particular email address is known to be connected to this particular phone number.
Yeah, exactly. And I also want to stress the importance of August 31st is the cutoff date to have this done. It's not the date to fill out the form, right?
Yeah.
So when that form is submitted, there's processing time behind sending in that authentication and getting that, set up essentially. So I would encourage you should have that email in your email address. Again, it's on Facebook, it's in this chat. It doesn't take any more than 5 minutes once you have your EIN and your correct business number. If you're a sole proprietor and you're not set up as a formal business, you would just put in your own personal information. But I would encourage you to do that sooner than later.
Absolutely.
Mark's asking, I have 4 other personal Twilio's number. That account didn't ask either. You have four other personal Twilio's numbers through who? Twilio?
If you've got your own numbers through Twilio, whoever you are using that service with will probably be doing the exact same thing we are, just to verify. If you personally have multiple phone numbers on a given email address, though, that one email address should take care of all the different numbers. But I would verify that with Twilio if you're using their services independently. Some people do. Absolutely.
Yeah, he has them from Twilio, registered them as well at Twilio.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions? This is, I just can't stress the importance. Make sure that you do this as quickly as possible, because there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are doing this exact same process, and it takes time. Honestly, I almost foresee them extending the date just because of the sheer number of this, but it's possible they won't. So don't count on what I foresee in that case. But it's something that does need dealt with. All right,
Exactly.
Kendra, if you want to take it over from here, share.
Okay. Let me share my screen. All right. So I'm going to go over a few things. So when you're talking about setting yourself up for success, um, specifically in Realvolve, when you get a Realvolve account, you may have, let's just go and we'll jump around a little bit. Let's just go to your signature. If you day one you have just gotten a Realvolve account, if you go to your templates and you type in signature, you have two signatures. You have signature and signature enhanced. This is especially important for yourself, team members that you're adding. So when you're thinking about processes, you want to ensure that you're not just leaving the default for a new admin that you have. Because this is, branding of your business. This is how you're presenting yourself to the world. And so a signature is super important. Even if you're taking and copying in what you have in your email, just for conformity, you want it to match. So if you go to templates and signature without you doing anything else, signature and signature enhance are going to default to your name. So, it may say Bob Smith. Okay. So signature is your text messages, signature enhanced is your emails. And so without you doing or updating any of this, it's just going to, just say your name, which is probably not what you want. So specifically in signature enhanced, I want to just point out a few things. One, don't leave it as your default. It can be as simple as you going into your email, taking the email that you currently have, pasting it in here and hitting save. I would discourage you from having an image alone, because sometimes as you're sending things out to the Googles and the Yahoos or whatever, you have to think about the fact that they're reading your email and deciding how they're going to display it to that person. Okay. So there's a lot of things that you can do to ensure that you're being viewed as a safe sender. But just in general, if your signature block is just an image, that image could be blocked by whoever is receiving that email. And so I would suggest that if you're doing an email that you're doing just an image, that you also have like, thanks, Bob Realtor, right above that. So even if that image is temporarily blocked or it comes across as, hey, whoa, is this person safe to be sending to? You still have that text that is displaying at all times. So again, update your signature. We do have, if you come in here and hover over this icon that looks like a little piece of paper, these are templates. And so you can see here, you have a variety of templates that you can choose from. We also have additional icons and images that you can put in here, individual social media links of different sizes. And then at the bottom, we have a list, right? So this one can be super helpful. Pull in all social media icons, either 32 by 32 or 48 by 48. You've also got certifications that you can pull in. So if I want to integrate something like this, and again, what I've used here is one of our templates, and our templates by default pull in a few information, a few pieces of information, and they're using the power of merge fields. If you spend any time at all in Realvolve, you probably are familiar with the idea of merge fields, but the premise is let's store information one place and use it over and over and over. Okay. So the reason these double brackets are here and this small image icon is because this information is not living inside of this template. It's living in the back end of my settings, which we're going to go over. And the benefit of that is because I always want my information to live in one place, and I want it to update everywhere. And this premise is not just for Realvolve. This should be in your entire business. You should think about, what is the source of truth? Where can I find that one piece of information? Or if something changes, do I have a place where I can update all of that? And so this image lives in my settings. Anything with a double bracket means I'm going to go look for that information somewhere else. So current user is going to be the person that is sending this information. In this case, I'm in my account, I would be sending this information. Now, if I was in a sub-user account, let's say I had an admin, but I wanted that person's signature to be my signature. I wanted my name pulled in there because it's my team. I can always use primary user. Okay. So current user, again, is who is sending that information, and primary user is going to be the person that owns that account. And so if you have admin or people under you, you can use a combination of current user and primary user to make that distinction that this person is working on behalf of this team. or however you have that set up. So if I use that primary user information, you're always asking yourself, where does this information pull from? Because if Realvolve goes to look for that information and it can't find it, then it's going to pull blank. Okay. So with current user, it's looking in the current user settings. In this case, this account settings. If it's primary user, it's going to be in the main account holders settings. And both of those are going to be, here under settings. And we'll look at that in a minute. So to use this template, if I wanted to pull this in, I'm just going to click here and I'm going to select whichever one I want. Basically, the difference is how is your image pulled from. So as you can see here, this one's vertical, circle, and then horizontal. Now, what that's pulling in, that image is pulling in this image right here, your picture. Okay, so take that into account if you're using one of our templates on how you want that to look. This image may not pull very well in a in a rectangle or whatever. So I'd be thinking about that. I just kicked myself out. So in this case, I've used one of our predetermined signatures, and under it, I want to put in some of our social icons. So I'm going to put my cursor wherever I want this to live. Click on the settings. I'm going to scroll down. And I'm going to select which one I want. Now, again, this is pulling in all of these social icons, and the difference between the two is the size. So I would prefer smaller ones. And so I put that here. Once you've done that, you have one other step to kind of make sure that this works. By default, if I click on this Facebook icon and I come up here and click on this link, it is defaulted to facebook.com. Not super beneficial to throw people over to Facebook. You want them to be directed to your Facebook page. So for each one of these icons, the first thing I would do is I would organize them. Okay. So maybe I don't use Pinterest. I can just delete it out. Okay. I can organize these the way I want. Maybe I want this one here. I can copy. So all I did was Command C to copy it, and I'm just pasting them wherever I want. And so I have a little bit of ability to move these around. So get them in the order you want, delete out the ones that you don't want. Empty spaces aren't the end of the world. They're just going to be a space here. So in this case, I don't want that space. I could copy this, put it here. Now I have my correct spacing, and these blank spaces here aren't going to show.
You can just delete the cell on those. Right click on them and choose cell delete. Cell.
Where's cell delete?
Cell and then delete. Choose cell, second item, and then delete cell. There you go.
Yeah. So you can delete these out. You can get it however you want. And then again, that's going to adjust the spacing. Notice when I deleted those cells, there was a little bit more spacing in here. And so you can kind of tweak this or add it to exactly how you want. Once you get them in the order and the spacing that you want, you're going to click highlight them, select the link, paste in your URL, and you're going to hit OK. After you've done that, you're going to hit save. And then when you go to preview, you're going to have your social media icons here that are now linked to your specific social media accounts. Any questions on that so far? Everyone's good. All right, so let's look at where they pull that information. So if I go to settings, my account tab, which is where it defaults to, is where a majority of your personal information lives. So I would definitely, now or in the future or whatever, pull it up and just take a look at what's in there. The majority of these, profile picture, logo, first name, last name, as you saw inside of this signature, a lot of these are merge fields, if not all of them. Okay, so first name, last name, team name, company, cell phone, work phone, email address, website, all of those are pulled from here. Okay, I can pull in brand, service area. The pronoun is helpful because you have the ability to do that inside of templates, kind of advanced. But if this is not filled out, it will default to they. But you have the ability to do he, she, her, things like that if you want that distinction made and you're using those merge fields. But just know each one of these should be filled out to the best of your ability because you have the ability to reuse that information somewhere else. Under emails, if you have your email connected here, under your account, this email address here is what Realvolve is going to default your sent email address looks like. So when you go to send out an email, it's going to default and say, hey, we think you're sending an email from Kendra@realvolve.com. What this email, and it's also your login. So if you change your email under my accounts, your login is going to change. Now, under emails here, if you have this connected, it's going to show you the status of this connection. This connection is beneficial because you can actually look at emails that have been sent between you and someone else. And so if I come into a specific contact, once I have my email connected here, I have access to this email tab. And what this email tab is saying is what emails have been sent outside of Realvolve, or, in general, let's look at the connection between this email address and this contact. And so it would actually go and look in your Gmail account and see the communication that you've had outside of Realvolve and pull that in. I think that's super beneficial to see the communication outside. I also think this is very beneficial if you have admins in your account, or that are working out of your account. They have the access without necessarily logging into your email. They can come into your Realvolve account and see that communication should they need to, if things are happening outside of Realvolve. Now, by default, this box is not checked. What this is saying is we will send the email through our server. If we send the email through our server, we are going to put tracking on it. Right here, you can see it's delivered. It would also say open, clicked, things like that. You have some of that tracking capability. If I have this checked to send through my own server, we're not tracking that. So you would still see this email sent, but this delivered would be gone. It would actually be sending that email or that information over to your email and allowing that information to be sent out of your server. Anything else on that, Mark?
That's the bulk of it. No, you're good.
Okay. Auto signature by default is not turned on. I would check your settings and make sure that this is on. What this is doing is saying, if I go in here and I want to send an email to Beth Homebuyer and I click on this email, is my email signature going to pull in here automatically? And I can't think of a reason you probably wouldn't want that to happen. So most of the time you're going to want to say, yes, I want my auto signature to turn on. Now, if you go to send a text message, you notice that this says auto signature into your messages. That is auto pulling it into your emails, not necessarily your text messages. So if I type a text message here, I can still use my bracket signature to pull in my signature if I'm doing a one-off on a text. Now, any of my templates probably already have my signature bracket in here. But if you're sending a one-off, you want to put in your merge field for your signature on text.
The thought there was, a lot of times you just want to send a quick, hey, John, just thinking about you, blah, 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 and not have to be so formal about sending a signature. I mean, it was almost seemed not personal by adding the signature all the time, was the rationale behind not adding it in the SMS.
Mm-hmm.
Right, wrong, and different. I'm not sure.
The other thing that I would have you take a look at is auto send emails and SMS. Okay, so when you're building out your workflows, one of the things we're going to talk about is what happens when you capture a new lead. So let's say that I'm using an example of I have a lead on my website and they have inquired on a specific property. I've set up a workflow so that they come into Realvolve automatically, and I automatically want to send myself a text message that says, hey, you have a new lead, and I want to send them a text message that says, hey, thanks for your information. I got your inquiry. I'm going to call you ASAP. Okay. I want those things ideally to happen automatically. If I do not have the ability to send things out automatically enabled, those things will not go out. And so sometimes what I see is somebody will add an admin or a sub user, and they're not really checking that person's settings. They haven't really gone through their settings. They assume that maybe that they'll take on their own settings from that main account, and they don't. And so let's say that that admin has a text that's supposed to be sent out automatically, and it hasn't had authorization to send things automatically. Those texts will not go out. And so I would definitely encourage you to take a look at this, and then also pay attention to the time of day that you're sending things, So one of the things that we're automating a lot is reminders, So reminder, you have a home inspection today at, 10 a.m. You wouldn't want to send that text at 11 a.m. It wouldn't be appropriate. So I always encourage people to take a look or think about what's the earliest I'd feel comfortable sending somebody a text. But so make it late enough so you're not inconveniencing anyone. Make it early enough so you're not making yourself look inappropriate by sending things after the fact. And look, I would encourage you to come in here and take a look at each one of these fields and just make sure that they're filled out. The other thing that I would definitely take a look at is your time zone. Sometimes if you can throw off your calendar or your, things. If you put your home inspection for 9 a.m., but you have the wrong time zone in here, those workflows and your calendar is not going to be set up for success. So definitely take a look at that. Anything else you wanted to go over on settings, Mark?
We did have a couple questions in this particular area. Why does email sync stop working without any action on my part? Mine now needs reauthentication. So the way authentication works between providers, and there are services that we use and they have to be authenticated. They, for whatever reason, will identify a period of time that authentication is good for. And some of them are short, some of them are long. It just kind of depends on which provider it is. And they'll just time out. Now, there are kind of built-in reauthentications that if you're using it frequently enough, it kind of automatically reauthenticates. But if there's any kind of gap between times and it doesn't use it, it can just time out. You've got to manually reauthenticate. We don't have control over that ourselves. It's really the third party. So hope that makes sense. And then how do we handle that if you're communicating with a friend and tons of personal emails? Can you turn off sync per contact? So I'm assuming that's the signature you're talking about, Mark.
I think he means like the email tab, right? So if you had your friend Bob as a contact and you've put your email in and you go to Bob's contact and click on the email tab, you would see personal communication between you and Bob. One, it's only going to be between your email and that person. So more than likely, if you have an admin, if the admin logs into their account and they go to Bob's contact and they click on Bob's email tab, they're going to see communication between them and Bob, not you and Bob. They would actually have to be in your account. So more than likely, if you have somebody has access to your account, then I would assume that you may, not care if you see that communication. But that communication, anything that would be, outside of personal things, it would be there. But again, it's only going to be in your login. Your sub users would not see that communication.
Yeah, the one thing that to be cautious of there, and users have gotten caught on this, is it is in this case where you're looking at that email tab, we're viewing basically what's in your Gmail. I mean, if you're using Gmail, what's in your account itself. If you delete out of Realvolve, it's that connection is also deleting it out of your main account. So you don't want to just arbitrarily delete information out of there either. So just a kind of a warning there. But yeah, if your users don't have access to your login, then switching the login, then they won't ever see your correspondence. They'll only see their correspondence with that person.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
That's it on these.
Okay. The last thing that I wanted to go over is just the basics of thinking through your flows. So we're a little bit later than I thought would be, so I'll talk kind of fast and go over this. But I think it's so important. If just in general, everything that you do as an agent, as a broker, as a team leader, or whatever else, there's patterns to the things that you're doing, and a lot of people just are going with the flow. They're reactive instead of proactive, meaning that they're dealing with things as they come in, rather than systematizing them and thinking about how can I do things in a predictable way so that I can, again, go back to scale. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Again, I've been licensed for about 10 years. I remember I was representing a seller, and this was before I put all these systems into place, build out Realvolve, build all these systems. And the buyer's agent called me at like 9 o'clock at night, and she's like, I sent you over a form 20 minutes ago. We need to deal with this. Our end of due diligence is tonight. And I'm thinking, is this lady crazy? It is 9 o'clock at night, and she's asking me, about this. Okay. So do I have to deal with this? Yes, I probably should be dealing with this. Now I have to contact the seller or everything else. The stress involved with that, it's just not, nor do I want to be working at 9 o'clock at night. Okay. So you take those things that that you have to deal with, and you put processes in place so that you deal with them proactively instead of retroactively. So taking that specific example, what I do now is I have a task in my contract to close process 2 days before the expiration of my due diligence that checks in with that other agent. And then also a reminder on the day of, if they haven't sent anything, prior to 2 days prior, sending them an email that says, we haven't received anything on this. Just a reminder, your expiration of due diligence is on this. If the buyer is asking for, anything, just please have it submitted by the close of business 5 o'clock on whatever day your due diligence is ending, right? So you can take those issues that you're having now, or the things that are kind of your pain points, and systematize them so that things don't fall through the cracks, and your day is a lot more structured and organized. So when you think of flows, just in general, you need to have, listing flows, transactional flows, but then also relationship management flows. And I would encourage you, to think about which one of those you're going to prioritize first. Okay. So it's all about where you're at, or how many balls you're juggling in your current business right now. So if you stop and say, okay, I'm going to, systematize my listing and my transaction processes, that's fine, but you also want to make sure that you have enough things in the pipeline that that you're not going to make your business start to have hills and valleys. Okay, so all of this is in an effort to stabilize your business so that you have predictable income that's not again going through those hills and valleys. And these essentially setting up flows, workflows, processes eliminates all of that. Now, if you say, okay, well, I'm going to start and build my relationship management. And what I mean by relationship management is, where are you getting your leads? Referrals, sphere of influence, paid leads, any of that. If I spend a couple months and focus nothing on my, but my relationship management, that's going to start working. And if I have gaps and inefficiencies in my listing and transaction management, I'm going to start to feel that pain when I start pushing more people through that funnel. So I'd encourage you to take a look at all three of those things and understand the importance of not focusing on one of these things too hard, but understand how one affects the other. But today I'm going to talk about, lead capture, or how you deal with leads. The first thing you have to do is understand, where are you getting your leads from? So I know some people are like, I don't pay for leads. I don't do this. I don't do that. I think the amount of people that overlook potential is big, even in successful agents. Like, I talk to agents all the time. I work with them. And it's like, if, you ran into somebody at that you met at the grocery store or something like that, any situation where you're coming in contact with somebody that is a potential source of business should have a flow. It should be a thought process behind it on, how am I going to ensure that I maintain relationship with this person so that in the future, if they decide to do something, then I have done what I need to do. And so even if you come in contact with a person that isn't saying, hey, I want to go look at property tomorrow, you're asking yourself, is this person a potential source of business in the future? And if they are, they should be in your CRM marked appropriately. And they should have some kind of, let's just say that, you don't know, they own a house, but they haven't given you an indication that they're going to do anything for any time to come. At a bare minimum, we need to be putting them in the CRM. You probably should have some kind of branding workflow in place so that they see your face and that they know that you're still actively involved in Realvolve. So you're asking yourself, where are all these groups of people? Okay, I met you and I had a conversation with you. I somebody called me on the phone, I captured a lead on my website. I paid for a lead on realtor.com. All of these things at step one is, where are these potential sources of business? And inside of your settings under contact source types is where you keep those inside of Realvolve. Okay. And so one, this should be filled out, but two, you should have an action plan or a thought process behind, how are these people captured? What am I doing with them? What is their flow? How am I setting it up so that one, I'm making sure that they don't fall through the cracks, and that I'm doing whatever I can do to ensure that I'm growing that relationship or converting that lead if they have raised their hand. So step one, come into your contact source types and ensure that you've filled out everything that you're getting. I don't know why we're getting people from Jack in the Box, but that's fine. Okay, I'm going to Jack in the Box. I'm meeting people there. And whatever it is. So let's think about that in terms of, each one of these people need a plan. So the first plan is, where am I getting them from? Where am I capturing them? And I'm going to use the example of Zillow because that's what I have pulled up in here. Obviously, they're coming into Zillow. You're thinking about what's done. Zillow probably has their concierge in process. So they've gotten really good in the last few years about recognizing the gap in agents' ability to, continue to make that contact. So their concierge do that. And then when that person makes that connection, typically that's when that lead is transferred to you or round robin to you if you are paying for Zillow leads. So you're thinking about that in terms of how you want to handle it. So, okay, I pick up the phone, we have a new buyer for you. Okay, great. Most of the time, if I'm getting a lead from Zillow, it's because the concierge connected me to them. I had a conversation with them. Now they're in Zillow's CRM. If you do not have process in place, probably what you're doing is saying, oh yeah, you want information on 123 Main Street? Okay, here it is. You're sending it off. And then what happens next? If you have no process in place, the ability for you to convert that lead, unless they want to pick up and write a contract on 123 Main Street tomorrow, is very slim. More than likely, what you've just done is become an unpaid assistant for that listing agent and given them the information that they were inquiring on. Whereas your plan should have been, how do I establish a relationship with this person? Okay. So one of the things specifically on Zillow that Zillow does is it allows, I always thinking about next steps. Okay. So if I'm having that conversation, I'm planting seeds with that person. One, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to get you that information. And then I'm always having a next step. Okay. So whatever my source type is, I'm in my brain, I'm going, what is the next step for this person? Because the last thing I want to do is just send this out. So I'm not just giving them the information that they're asking for. I'm one, establishing a relationship, and I'm two, more importantly, getting the information that they need. How can I be a resource to you? If you want to buy 123 Main Street, that's fine. But I care more about, what are you looking at? What is your timeline? How can I help you outside of 123 Main Street, in addition to getting you the information that you actually asked for? So not only do I have all this information in my head, that lead has come in. And so what happens next? If they're just coming into Zillow, probably nothing. Now, I want them in my CRM because collectively I should have different lead sources from different places. And so Realvolve should serve as that place where all of your leads land. Okay. And so again, I'm picking on Zillow, but I could talk about this for sale by owner, for farming, for referrals, for somebody calls off my sign. I have a very detailed and planned procedure for each one of those that happens. Now, when I say I'm thinking about this and setting up this process for lead source, it's because it wouldn't be appropriate for me to handle every different type of lead source the same. Now, let's take Realtor.com and Zillow. Yes, they're paid leads, that I'm paying for. However, the way that those leads come in are different. And specifically with Zillow, they have that concierge program, right? So if I get a Realtor.com lead that comes in and they don't have that concierge program, your person has submitted a form and said, I want to talk to somebody about this. So typically what you're doing with them is, I want myself to get a text message. I want them to get a text message and an email that says, hey, I received your inquiry. I'm going to call you as soon as possible. If you put that same process in place for somebody that was on a Zillow lead that you just got off the phone from, they're going to open up your text message and email and be like, this person, they've lost their marbles. I just got off the phone with them. They don't know what they're doing. So The whole point being a process, a cycle on, oh, I want this to happen, and I want this to happen, and I want this to happen, that can be repeatable for each lead source needs to be thought about and then put into place. And so first thing that I'm typically thinking about, again, going back to Zillow, I want that lead in Realvolve. I can pick up my phone, I can add it in my app, I can come into Realvolve, I can click on the dashboard and click on this plus sign and hit contact. The problem is that I should be out. I should be at listings, I should be showing property, I should be out and about doing things. The likelihood of me remembering that I took a 15-minute phone call at 9:15 this morning and saying, oh, I'm going to come in and, add that person in here. You probably will do it. Is it the best use of your time? No, because there's automation potential behind that. So for each one of those lead sources, I would ask you, to think about how is it that I can automate the introduction of this lead into my CRM. And a lot of times that's going to be through Zapier or, some other sort of automation. So going back to Zillow, and if you're not familiar with Zapier, what Zapier is, I think of it like an information highway, right? So Zapier, once it's set up, it's thinking, watch out for Zillow leads. If a Zillow lead comes in, grab it and do something with it. In this case, it's grabbing it and throwing it to Realvolve. So there's a lot of power there, right? One, if I just say, hey, Zapier, pay attention and see if I get a new Zillow lead. If I do, throw it over to Realvolve. That's, time that you're not wasting for yourself. And two, I would also encourage you to think about the potential of other automation that you can do in things like Zapier behind what can be done. So a trigger in Zapier is saying, grab the information. In this case, I just said, hey, pay attention to when I have a new Zillow lead. Now the action is creating this contact in Realvolve. And so I can actually, again, going back to reusing information, anything I see in here is information that I captured from Zillow. And the reason I added this is if I click in here, it gives me a drop down. All of this information is information that was found inside of that lead from Zillow. And so what I'm doing is I'm making the connection between Zillow and Realvolve. So it's saying, take this Zillow information and make it live in this place inside of Realvolve. In this case, I want the first name and the last name from Zillow to come over and live in the first name and last name from Realvolve. Any of these fields here are fields that Realvolve has the ability to capture information. So this is not Zillow specific. This is any type of lead source that you're capturing from anywhere, your website, email, whatever it is, a lot of this is going to have this same principle. So in this case, Zillow gave me this person's phone number. I said, store it in the home mobile number of Realvolve, store their email address, assign them a contact source inside of Realvolve as Zillow. So now I'm automatically tracking my sources without me doing anything because I know this is a constant. Every time I have this lead source come in this manner, they should be given a contact source of Zillow. Now, where the power comes in is right here. I can start a new workflow. And we'll go deeper into this and how you can set this up at other times. But I just really want you to think about the potential of the automation for every lead source and having a plan, okay? So my plan for this to Zillow is I want the lead to come in automatically from Zillow into Realvolve. I'm doing that through Zapier. I want a workflow to start automatically. Right here, I've got new lead notification. Inside of that workflow, I've got an automatic text to myself. I've got a text to the client saying, it was great talking to you, whatever it is, something that would work for this specific thing. And then maybe I'm setting a task to myself to follow up on the conversation that I had with them. If I know that I had a conversation in this, what is their next step? Set up an IDX search, follow up with the property they inquired on, whatever. All of those can be auto activities that are assigned to you. And then as you can see here in notes, I have also filed or pulled in information that Zillow has provided on just what this person is searching for in general, because Zillow stores that information. So why not pull it in and have it stay stored in my CRM automatically for me? Anything else you want to add on that, Mark?
The real power of Realvolve comes in its integration also with functionality of Zapier and other programs like it. And Zapier's not the only one that's out there, but the automation that you're putting in, I'm getting an echo again. Let me see if I can. The automation that you can put into Realvolve to systematize everything that you do is so critical, and it doesn't matter necessarily where that name comes from, whether it's Zillow, whatever, like you said. So just think through those processes each and every time. How would I treat this person differently? Now, Cheryl brought up a question. You know, if I meet someone at church and there's no real estate talk, but I want to stay in touch without being obtrusive, what is the best minimum workflow? And that is the way to think is, you know, what is the least amount of thing that I should be doing, some kind of call to action that I need to take in the event that I get somebody brand new. And you could even create your own little Google form, just like we were using a form for this A2P piece. You could create a very minimal form of just name, maybe phone number, email, and how did you where did you meet, or you know what was discussed or whatever, and then maybe based off of that even determine some very basic workflows that you start and put those in the Zap, and then that way whenever somebody comes into your circle, whether at church or roller rink or you know wherever, do they even have roller rinks anymore? You know, wherever it's at, you have some system in place to handle them. I think is the real key to what you're explaining.
Yeah. And so to further elaborate on Cheryl's question, if I create, or if I ran into somebody at church, okay, and I would go into my settings in my and make sure that church is in there as a lead source, right? Because it is, when you establish communications from places, that is inevitably going to be a place that you can get business from. So I would add it there. Second of all, you need to get that person into the system. So you can, like Mark's saying, you can create a form that adds them automatically. You can just go into your app and click on add a new contact. You can come into this plus sign. So the first step is get them into the system. Now, if you put them on your 10-year of contact nurture, what that's going to do is create typically quarterly follow-ups with them, just long-term maintenance. So I kind of think about situations like this where a person has not raised their hand in that situation. So you could start them on your 10-year of contact nurture. The goal being is not those quarterly contacts, same way with this contact cross-section. The way I would handle this person is I would put them in my past client bucket, because I treat that like my sphere of influence, and essentially that's what this person is. If this person is in my long-term or my past client bucket, what that tells me is that I need to maintain or build a relationship with this person. Okay. And you do that by frequent communication. And so first you have to decide how frequent is that communication. Typically it's once a quarter. So if this person comes in and I say, Sally from church, and I create the contact for Sally, probably wouldn't call her Sally Church, but that's what I'm going to do. Okay.
Sally the
I can
church
do a
lady.
few. What's that?
Sally the church lady.
Sally Church lady. I can do a few things. I would put her on my contact cross section. I'd come into classifications. I'd give her a stage, aware or no, however I decide to bucket that. And then I'm going to classify her again, my status. I'd put her as a past client because I use my past client bucket as my sphere. Because again, if you've worked with me at all, you know that you should be thinking about the status in terms of length of contact. So suspect 2 days, prospect 3 days, lead and client once a week, and past client once a quarter. So what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that she shows up on my contact cross section once every 90 days. Because really what you want to do is not say, hey, do you want to sell a house or buy a house right now? what this contact cross section is telling me is this is a person that I want to establish, maintain, and build a relationship with. So first I need to get them on there. So how do I do that? I give her a stage, a status, and I contact dates, and I give her at least a last call date or personal visit date. Probably saw her at church last Sunday. So that wasn't, yeah, I don't know. That was probably a month ago. But either way, this, and these two things now qualifies her to show up on this contact cross section. Why is this important? Now this tells me that 90 days from the date that I said that I was going to, that I saw her last, this person will show up on my contact cross section and say, hey, it's been 91 days since you talked to this person. It's time for you to think about them. So then I can go in here and say, you know, I just saw this person at church. She's good. And I can just update my last personal visit date to today or whenever it was. Back out of here. Now that person's off of my thought process for another 90 days. That's one way to handle it. Another way to handle it is I just created a contact. Maybe I don't have workflows yet, maybe nothing else. I always want a next step. I put her on my contact cross section because that's my next step. If I'm not using a contact cross section, I could always come into the contact and use this one off, right? Like follow up on, whatever, okay? And I could say, the next time I want to think about Beth Homebuyer is on the 24th. And I'm basically picking my own path, but I'm always creating a next step, okay? I didn't just put Beth Homebuyer in my CRM and say, forget about you, see you never, because that's what's going to happen. If you put somebody in your CRM without a next step, without a plan of action, they're gone, okay? Unless you just happen to, pull them up. So create a one-off activity, put them on your contact cross section, or start a workflow. In that case, that 10-year of contact nurture would work because it has those quarterly contact reminders. If you have their birthday in there, it would celebrate their birthdays as well.
The three most powerful words that I heard from one of our users a long time ago was, and then I do this, and then I do that, whatever that is. Whenever you put somebody in there, think about, and then I, and that's the call to action.
Yeah. What can you do to make sure that that relationship is never dropped? Even if that quarterly reminder is you going on Facebook and just saying, oh, cute soccer photo of your kids, that is them, the other person thinking about you. It doesn't have to be maybe real estate related directly. It's not always sell. That's a relationship business. So use those touch points as ways to just maintain that relationship. Let that person know you sell real estate, and then they'll think of you when they need you.
I think I took up too much space during my A2P talk. Sorry about that.
No worries. I talk a lot. Any questions on anything we talked about today? I know we're a little bit over on time.
That's all in the chat that I see. Well, guys, okay. Thank you so much for attending today. We've got some more important stuff. I do want to spend a little bit time either next week or the following week on the little secret that I shared last week on doing videos. And I know several users have BombBomb. For those that don't want to do BombBomb, there is a new another option now that we've got available within Realvolve called Dub, and want to make sure that everybody knows about them and make sure that you use them effectively. So I want to talk about that as well. So if you guys have any interest in that, let us know.
Yeah, we'll touch base on Dub next time, and then also next week we're going to be talking about how you can celebrate holidays inside of Realvolve.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye.
Yeah.